Today, we'll just after the long break, 1 week apart, that we didn't see each other. So I hope you remember what we talked about in the first class, right? In the first week of class, we talked about human and animal communication and how the two might be different, right? The two might be different based on, if you remember, some features, right? We call them design features of language, right? We call them those. And then we looked at what language is, right? Language is a system of signs, remember? A sign has a meaning and also the form, right? The form plus the meaning. So that's what we talked about. So today we'll move on to what we call phonetics, right? So this is the handout that, let's see. This is the PowerPoint file that I sent out yesterday. So today we'll start on phonetics, okay? And I have the handout that will be used for today's class. I'll pass this out to the back. And we'll use the handout along with the slides, okay? So we'll talk about parts of the vocal tract. The vocal tract meaning the organs that you use to produce sounds. And also we'll look at consonants, okay? We'll start with consonant, and on Wednesday we'll look at vowels. So this is in chapter 3 in your book, okay? And the goals for this chapter is, the first goal for this chapter is, first you have to be able to identify the organs. So we'll talk about different organs that we use in producing speech sounds. And then you have to learn symbols that we use for transcribing English sounds. There's a little bit of memorization that you have to do when you learn to match symbols and the sounds that they represent. So I require some memorization here in this part. And then finally, you should be able to describe and classify sounds according to articulatory properties. Articulatory meaning pronouncing, okay, pronouncing. Articulate, when you articulate a sound, it means you pronounce a sound, okay? So the first thing that we'll talk about is how you produce speech sounds, right? Speech sound production process, right? We are talking about speech sounds only, right? Not sounds that you do with clapping or anything else, okay? So when you produce speech sounds, there are 3 steps in the process. The first step is the air-stem step, the phonation step, and the oral nasal step. So there are 3 steps, and you can see these steps on the handout too. So, so I'll go through each step, okay? So the first step is the air-stem step, right? So this is the air-stem step here, right? So when you speak or when you produce sounds, right, speech sound, you have to know, I'll switch to this camera so that you can see better. You don't have that, but so when you produce speech sounds, you have to inhale. You have to inhale, right? First, you have to inhale, and then before you make sounds, you have to exhale, right? To exhale is when the air comes out, right? So when you breathe in the air goes through here, right? The air goes through here and to the lungs here. You have 2 lungs, right? And when you want to speak, you cannot breathe in, right? You cannot inhale. You have to exhale. So the air will come from the lungs here, and then the air will pass through this, what we call the trachea, and then it will pass through the larynx, and then through the mouth or through the nose. So that's how we produce speech sounds. You want to inhale first so that you have the air, right, into the lungs here, and then you exhale so that the air comes out through the trachea here, and then through the larynx, and then throughout the mouth or throughout the nose, okay? The trachea, another name for it is the windpipe. The windpipe. Windpipe. Let's see, what's the Korean term for it? Let's see. Sumtong, right? Sumtong. right? The windpipe, the trachea. I don't know what you use for the lungs here. And then the pharynx, that's the throat. And then the nasal cavity, that's the nose, right? The larynx, that's the voice box. The voice box is, let's see. Oh, difficult. 抛送器官. Okay? So that's the first step, right? The air steam step. You need the air to produce the sounds, okay? So you breathe in so that your air fills up the lungs here. And then when you want to speak, you have to breathe out or you have to exhale, right? And the air will come from the lungs here through the trachea and out of the mouth or out of the nose, right? So that's the first step, okay? The second step is, if you look at the slide, the second step is what we call the phonation step, right? The phonation step. This is on your handout too. So the phonation step is when the air passes through what we call the larynx or the voice box, right? And this is the picture of the larynx, and I will talk in details about how the larynx works in a minute here, but this is the second step, okay? So the air from the lungs will pass through this, and then the air will be manipulated. The air will be shaped through this opening. You see the opening here, right? It will be shaped into different shapes and different waveforms, so you have different sounds. So this is the second step, okay? And the last step is the oral nasal step, where the air, after it passes to the larynx here, the larynx is here, okay? This is the larynx. So it will be in your mouth or in your nose. And then the shape of your tongue or the shape of other organs in the mouth will shape the sound as well. So the fact that you have so many different speech sounds is because of this, the second step, and also because of the third step, principally, okay, mainly. The first step can also change the sound, but in English, we just use the air from the lungs. In other languages, they could use different sources of air, okay? So in English, we call that we exhale, right? We said we exhale for the air to come out, right? So we call that the pulmonic egressive air stream. Pulmonic egressive air stream. I can't write it here for you. So pulmonic egressive air stream. Pulmonic means the lungs, from the lungs, okay? So pulmonic means the lung, because we use the air from the lungs, right? Egressive is out. Gress means out. Gress means to go. E is out, so go out, right? So gress is to go, X is out, so to go out, and then airstream is just airstream, right? So in English, when we produce sounds, we use the pulmonic egressive airstream, meaning the air coming out of the lungs, okay, to produce speech sounds. But in other languages, they use other sources of air. They could do what they call ingressive airstream. Ingressive. This is in other languages, okay? Ingressive, in meaning going in, right? So in other languages, they can suck the air in order to make sounds, like that. So you suck the air in, right? Like that. Like that. But not in English. So in English, we only use the egressive airstream, the air coming out of the lung. But in other languages, they use the ingressive. They suck in the air. Okay? If you look at the slide, one of the slides here, these are organs in the mouth that you need to know when we describe sounds, because these organs are involved in sounds production. So which ones are difficult? Pharynx, that's the throat, right? The pharynx is the throat. And then uvular, which is the appendage here, like in the back of your mouth, a little appendage, like small thing there. It can be raised or it can be lowered, okay? And then the velum, which is the part before the uvular, right? And then the hard palate, which is the roof of your mouth. And then before the hard palate, you have the alveolar ridge. So this is this part, which refers to the bumps after the front teeth, the upper front teeth, okay? And then you have the upper teeth, the lower teeth, and the lips. And then this is the nasal cavity. So I think, and then the glottis, I'll talk about the glottis in a minute. So these are the names that you should have down. So the velum, the uvular, the hard palate, and the alveolar ridge. All these are necessary terms that you need to know in order to describe speech sounds, okay? And there are some adjective forms that are associated with the organs that we just looked at, okay? So the lips, the upper and the lower, you have upper and the lower lips, right? We use the adjectival form labial. So labial is a Latin term, right, which means the lips, or labial, same thing, right? So when you see labial or labial, it has to do with the lips. And then teeth, we use dental, right? And alveolar ridge, you use alveolar or alveo, right? So these are adjective forms when you use to describe something, okay? These are the noun forms, right? Hard palate, you just say palatal, you add the al, right? Palatal. And then the velum, you call velar, right? The ar is adjective. Nasal cavity, you just call it nasal. And then glottis, you do it the al ending, okay? So these are the terms that you should be familiar with, okay? And this table shows different organs that you use to produce sounds that we just looked at, and also the movement, whether they move or not when you produce sounds, okay? So basically you move your tongue, right? You move your tongue, right? You can raise your tongue, you can lower your tongue and stuff like that. And then in the larynx or the voice box, you can vibrate your larynx or the vocal folds or the vocal cords in your larynx. So these two move. And then the lips can also move. You can close, you can round your lips, you can spread your lips. So these three move, and then everything else does not move except for the uvular, okay? You can raise or you can lower the uvular, right? And the uvular is used for nasal sounds, right? Sounds that you make through your nose. And then the functions are here, okay? So all of these organs are involved in making or shaping different sounds, right? The fact that we can have different sounds is because we use different parts, or we manipulate, we shape the sound with the tongue, with the uvular, with everything else, okay? So before we go on, now we study the process, right, of sound production. It starts from the airstream step, and then it goes through the phonation process, and also finally the nasal-oral process, which means that for some sounds, when you raise the uvular here, right, it will be kind of here attached to the back of the throat, so it blocks the air from going through the nasal cavity. So the air can only come out through the mouth. So you have the oral sound. But if it's lower, so that you can see the space here, right? So if it's lower, then the air can pass through here and through the nose as well. So that's the third step, that you can shape the sound, okay? You can shape the air, making different sounds. So there are 3 steps. The next thing that I would like to talk about is that when you know about the steps, right? The next thing is when we describe sounds, right? There are different sounds in English and in other languages. When we describe sounds, we use what we call the International Phonetic Alphabet to describe sounds, right? This is a set of standardized symbols. No matter what language you speak, no matter what language you work on, no matter what sounds you want to describe, we can use the same system, right? As long as the sound is pronounced the same, so we use this system. And this system is good because it gives us the one-to-one correspondence between the symbol and the sound. Okay? So if it's this symbol, it refers to only this sound, regardless of the language. Okay? And doesn't matter what your writing system is. If you write Hangul, some people cannot read Hangul, right? For example. So if you use this, it means that anyone who is familiar with this system can read the sound in that language. And then just keep in mind that when we talked about the IPA, we refer to the symbol. We don't refer to the letter. We don't refer to the spelling, right? So we keep the spelling separate from the symbol, the IPA symbol. Okay? Why do we use the IPA symbols? Because one reason is that not everybody can read other writing systems, right? Right, Hangul or Thai or Vietnamese or Japanese, for example. So the IPA symbol is kind of universal, right? The set of symbols is kind of universal. And also in English, at least, there's no one-to-one correspondence between sounds and spelling in English, right? So you can see that the same letter, we're talking about letter here, could represent different sounds. You can see that the letter A in dad, the letter A in father, the letter A in about, and the letter A in many, they are all spelled with A, but the sound is different. A in dad is A in father is father, right? A in about is and A in many is like that. So there's no one-to-one correspondence. There's no matching up between the letter and the sound. So this use of letter is not going to work in English, right? And in other languages. Or same sound, different letters. IE, EO, OE, EE. They all have the same sound, which is E. Believe, people, amoeba, or tree. All E sound, right? So there's no one-to-one correspondence again. Or sometimes we use several letters together just to represent one sound. Like SH here, there are 2 letters, but there's only one sound. It's not s, right? It's shoot, is one sound. Or nation is not nat, eon, right? It's not 2 sounds, T and I. It's only one sound, right? One sound here. And then chord, it's not k-h-hord, right? It's only one sound, chord, k. So this is the reason why we prefer the IPA symbol, right? Because in IPA, one symbol is one and only one sound, right? So today we'll look at consonants, how we produce consonant sounds in English, right? So there are 2 things that you need to know about consonant sounds. Consonants are produced with a narrowing or obstruction somewhere in the vocal tract. Meaning, when you produce consonant sounds, there will be some obstruction, blocking. There will be some blocking, right? There will be some obstruction or some narrowing of 2 organs. You need to use different organs in the mouth, right? For example, the teeth, the palate, the velum, whatever, right? The lips and so on. But when you produce consonant sounds, there must be some obstruction, at least some obstruction, at least some blocking, right? So that the air cannot come out easily. There is some obstruction in the mouth somewhere, always, when you produce consonant sounds. When you produce vowel sounds, no obstruction, okay? When you produce consonant sounds, sometimes your consonants could be voiced or could be voiceless, okay? Voice refers to when the vocal cords vibrate, and voiceless, the vocal cords do not vibrate. I'll talk about this aspect in a minute. And the IPA symbol, the IPA symbols for consonant sounds, fortunately, are almost the same as English letters. So you don't have to memorize a lot. So P is the P sound. Spit, tip, appear, so that's no difficulty there, right? So that's a no-brainer. B is just like B, B, like that. T, 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 t sound. Stack, pat, stuff. You can see that the sound here could occur at any position. Could occur after S, could occur after the final position, or the medial position in between. So doesn't matter where the sound occurs, okay? What matters is that sound. B, the B, B is initial in the front, in the back, or even in the middle position, right? So all of these are just like English sounds, okay? Just like English letters, I'm sorry. The ones that are different are only ones in the red here. This is like the theta, the Greek symbol, which is the TH sound when you have to stick your tongue in between the teeth. This one, the first one is voiceless. Voiceless, TH, TH, voiceless. The first one is voiceless. And the last one here, it looks like a D with a stroke above it, right? It looks like a D, the letter D, with a stroke above it, right? The top one is voiceless, right? Voiceless. And this one is voiced, okay? So let me show you. So this one, so it's TH, but this one is voiceless, okay? But this one, it looks like a D with a stroke, with a bar on top. Also TS sound, but it's voiced. Okay? So both represent the TS sound, but one is voiceless and the other one is voiced. So the difference is like this is in thin, TH, thin, like this. And this is in like then. So thin is not voiced, and then is voiced, like that, okay? I'll talk about the voicing in a minute. But for you to know that this one, which looks like a 0 or an O, the letter O, with a cross in the middle, is the TS sound, but it's voiceless. But this one is the TH, but voiced, okay? And I will talk about the voicing in a minute. And other sounds are like English. S is the sound, right? Soap, psychology, nice, like that. So S is like that. Z is, so they both are the same. One is voiceless and the other one is voiced. Z, s, z, s, z. So that's voice, right? Z, like that. So zip, roads, kisses, Xerox, design, like that, right? So the top one is voiceless, the bottom one is voice. So when you voice, your vocal cords vibrate, right? S, z, s, z, s, z, like that. And then the ones in the red are the ones that are not in the English writing system. So this one, which looks like a hook, which looks like a hook, is sh, 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 like that. So shy, mission, nation, glacier, sure, like that, right? Shh, shh. And then the below one, which looks like number 3, is the same as the top one, but is voiced. So sh becomes zh, like that, right? Measure, vision, azure, it means like blue color, azure. Casualty, death meaning. So this one is voiceless, right? Shh, shh. Your tongue tip doesn't touch anything in the mouth when you do this. Shh, shh. So shy, mission, nation, glacier, shore. And then this one is voice. Zh, measure, vision, azure, casualty, like that. Okay. H is H. Who is not just one sound, right? So I underline 2 letters, but one sound. Who, had, reheat, that's the H sound. And then these two sounds, these two symbols, or these two sounds are not in the English writing system. This one, you can see it consists of the T plus the hook, right? The T is T, and then the hook is this one, so it's Ch, 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 Ch. Your tongue tip touches the alveolar ridge. So choke, match, church, right? Like that. D and number 3 consists of 2 sounds, duh, and then this one, right? So it's voice version of this. So judge, George, jelly, region, and residual, right? Like that. So j, j, as in gym, like that. Okay. So there are 3 things that are different. M, you use your lips. So m is the M sound. N is the N sound. That's easy. But this one, N with the tail, is ing, iung sound, right? In Korean. Lung, thing, think, finger, like that, right? Singer, ankle, like that. Okay? So the ones that are different are this and this, right? Sh and j, and then ch and j, and then the ing, the end with the tail, right? So only maybe 5 or 6, 7 symbols that you have to learn, right? Okay. Oh, why this one doesn't come out right? For this one, in the book, I think they use the letter J to represent the Y sound. You, beautiful, use, yell. You see that you here, the sound when we produce it is use, so it's the Y sound, right? Use. So you can use J or you can use Y, doesn't matter, okay? For this one, you can use J, the symbol J, or symbol Y, okay? Doesn't matter. I have that on the slide. Okay, now let's talk about different consonant sounds. Okay, when you describe consonant sounds, you need 3 descriptors: the voicing, the place, and the manner. Okay, articulatory description, meaning the description that is based on how the sound is articulated, how the sound is pronounced, how the sound is produced. So to describe different consonant sounds, we are talking about consonants now, okay? To describe consonant sounds, you need voicing, place, and also manner. Voicing, place, and manner, only 3 when you describe consonants, okay? The first thing, voicing, that I promised to talk about has to do with the state of the vocal folds. So this is what is in the larynx, right? The larynx, remember, the larynx is the voice box. The larynx is the voice box. Oops. That's when the air comes out from the lungs, right? And it passes through the larynx, right? So let me show you this. Where's that? So this is the trachea, right? The windpipe, and then the air will have to hit this first, right? So this is the first part, or the second in the sound production process, right? The second step. This is the larynx. So inside the larynx, you'll find. Where's my thing? Inside the larynx, you'll find the vocal cords or the vocal folds. So this is on your handout. So you can, this is on the second page of your handout. So this is your larynx. And for men, a lot of men have what we call the Adam's apple, which is the protruding kind of cartilage or soft bone here, right? A lot of men do have that, right? So that's where the larynx is, okay? So your larynx is behind that Adam's apple here, okay? So inside the larynx here, after your Adam's apple for men, and for women it's kind of hard to feel, right? But everyone has that, right? So this is the front part. This is the Adam apple that you can feel, and then this is the view from the top. It's like you just go into the throat, and you will see this, the top view here, right? And then it's this part, the larynx, which is here. So this is the view from the top. So you can see there are two bands, right, of membrane here. Two bands, 1 and 2. We call these two the vocal cords or the vocal folds. So VF or VC, same thing, vocal cords or vocal folds, okay? There are two bands here of membrane. And this is what we call the windpipe. So inside here, this is the windpipe, okay? And you can see that the vocal folds can be open a little bit and close tightly, open a little bit, and then open widely here, right? So the vocal folds can be manipulated, can be shaped, and then it will block the air, right? Or it will let the air pass easily, like in this picture, right? Because there's a wide opening, so the air from inside will pass like freely here, okay? So when the vocal folds here vibrate, meaning like close and open like this, then the air cannot come out easily, right? You have the voice sound, right? But when the vocal folds are just wide open, so the air can come out easily, you have the voiceless sound, okay? So I'll show you how the vocal fold works. So by looking at this video. So you will see how the vocal folds vibrate. We have to run past this thing first, sorry.
우리나라 유아의 10명 중 8명은
So you can see they are vibrating. See? Open wide. So this is the trachea inside. Open wide so the air can come out easily. This is the front part, your Adam's apple here. This is the back part. So this is in your throat. You can see that, right? And maybe probably you don't see here. There's like, this is when you sing, right? Boop, 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 boop. Let me pause here for a minute. You see this thing? This thing? It's a flap. It's a flap. Or you can think of it as a lid that when you swallow food, it will flap this one close so that the food doesn't go into your windpipe or your trachea. So if you can imagine when the food goes out in your trachea, you will choke, right? Like that, right? So this thing will flap this close so that the food go into the food pipe. The food pipe is here, right? So this thing will block the food from going in when you swallow the food. And then this, you can see these two things, like the triangle shape here. They are muscle, right? They are muscles that can pull the vocal folds to be apart or to be narrow. And we call them arytenoid cartilage. Cartilage meaning soft bones, okay? So these two things, you can see 1 and 2, right? So they can manipulate the vocal folds to pull the vocal folds apart like this or close. So they are muscles, okay? Or cartilage here, arytenoid cartilage. So you have 2, 1 and 2, okay? I'll write this out here. Arytenoid cartilage. Arytenoid cartilages. You have 2, right? So basically, they are here and then here, because they can pull the vocal folds to be apart or to be close. So you have the arytenoid cartilages. Okay, cartilages are like soft bones. Right? So yeah. So you can see that they are vibrate here, right? So now you can see that sometimes the vocal cords vibrate and sometimes they don't. So when they vibrate, we call that you have voice sounds, okay? When they don't vibrate, you have the voiceless sound. So these are 2 vocal folds, right? And then you see the triangles here, the 2 triangles, they are arytenoid cartilages, right? And then the front throat is here, the front part. This is your Adam's apple. For men and for women, it's hard to see. This is the front part. This is the back part. These 2 triangles here are arytenoid cartilages, right? That can pull the vocal folds to be apart or to be close. And you have vocal folds or the vocal cords here. And the space between the vocal cords or the vocal folds we call glottis. Okay. And remember, I mentioned the flap or the lid that closes this thing, right? The flap, which is here, that closes when you swallow food. We call that epiglottis. Epi, and then glottis. Epiglottis. If you don't see, I will do it here. Epiglottis. Epiglottis. Epi is above, right? It's above the glottis because it can close the glottis, right? Epi is above. Okay, just like this one. So this is like when you have some food in your mouth, right? So this is the trachea. The first part here is the trachea. The trachea is here where you see the arrow. But when you swallow food, right, the epiglottis, which is here, will block the food pipe so that the food doesn't come in here. The food can only go into the food pipe here, okay? So you can see that this is automatic, right? We don't usually think about, oh, I have to block my trachea when I swallow food. It's automatic, right? So the food can come down this way. So the 2 pipes run parallel to each other, okay? So the epiglottis is here, so because it can flap close this part, okay? Okay, coming back to the slide. So the first step is to know whether the sound is voice or voiceless, right, for consonants. So for consonants, if the glottis is narrow and because the vocal folds are vibrating, right, vibrating like that, then you have the voice sound. But when the vocal folds are apart so that the air can pass through easily, we have the voiceless sound. Okay? So, same thing. So when they vibrate like that, the air cannot come out easily, right? So there's friction in the air, right? Whereas this one, you see the glottis is wide open, so the air can pass out easily, so it's voiceless. So in English, what are voiced and voiceless sounds? So on your left-hand side, they are all voiceless, and on your right-hand side, they are all voiced. So you see that they come in pairs. Pa, P, P is voiceless, whereas B is voiced. You can see that they are the same. You use two lips, they are the same, but one is voiceless, the other one is voiced. B, 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 right? When you feel or when you touch your Adam's apple, you feel that if it's a voice sound, you feel some kind of vibration. B, B, but P, P, no vibration, okay? T and D, like that. K and G, 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 K, K, G, like that. F and V, V, S, Z, like that. TH and th and th, like that. Delusion and delusion, like that. Edge or edge, like that. So the first column is voiceless, whereas the second column is voice because there's vibration of the vocal folds. So you can see that the voicing does make sound different, right? Because one is voiceless, the other one is voice. So if you look at this table, the voicing will be the shaded areas, okay? So B and M and W, they are all voiced. So when you look at this table, the shaded areas indicate voice sounds, okay? The shaded areas. Voicing value will be in the shaded areas, like this, okay? The ones that are not in the shaded area, they are voiceless, okay? So you can see that most of them come in pairs. P and B, F and V, voiceless and voice, like theta and then the cross D and so on. With the exception of M and N and L and N with a tail, like that, okay? And also the H, okay? So that's the first thing that we know about consonants. The second thing that we know about consonants is the place of articulation. The place refers to where, exactly where the sound is made. The first one is voicing, right? The voicing is in the larynx, right? Whether your vocal cords vibrate or not. The second descriptor is the place, right? The place is where in the vocal tract the mouth is the narrowing or obstruction being made. Remember, when you make consonant sounds, there must be some blocking of the air, okay? The first blocking is the vocal cords, right? When they vibrate, the sound cannot come out easily. The second place of obstruction or of blocking is in your mouth, the place of articulation. So there are several places in your mouth that can block the air. The first, from outward to inward, okay? From outside to inside. So the first place is labial. Labial, remember? Labial is lip, right? Bilabial, two lips, right? Bi is two, labial is lip, so two lips with both lips. So sounds that are made at that place are B, B, P, P, M, 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 and W, 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 right? So B, P, M, W. When you pronounce these sounds, you use two lips, so we call them bilabial sounds, okay? B, P, M, W, like that. You use two lips, right? You can feel. The second place, going inward, okay, from outside. Labial dental, so you use labial, which is lip, dental, which is teeth, with lower lip and upper teeth. F and V, right? So you use your lower lip and the upper teeth, like that. One is voiceless, the other one is voice, like that. Going inward again, dental or interdental. Inter is between, right? So between the teeth, you use that place to pronounce the theta and the cross D, the th, right? And like that. Okay? Tip of the tongue between the teeth. And next place is the alveolar ridge, which means the bumps behind the front teeth, the upper front teeth. You use this place to make a lot of sounds like t, d, n, l, s, z, like that. Okay? So this place is an important place because you can pronounce so many sounds. T, t, n, l, s, z, like that. Okay? And alveopalatal behind that even. So you use that place to pronounce these sounds. Sh, zh, t, j, like that. So 4 sounds. And then the Y sound as well, y, y. Okay? And you have the next one, which is velar, kind of towards the back of your throat or your mouth, with the tongue at or near the soft palate or the velum. So velum or the soft palate, same thing. Okay? You do it towards the back, right? So g, 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 ng, 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 like that. So these are the velar sounds. Okay? And finally, when you make this H sound, you make it at the glottis, right? So we call that glottal sound. Glottis is the space between the vocal folds. Okay? So maybe 5 to 6 places, right? So on the table, place of articulation is horizontal here. Okay? From this part, which is the outermost part of the mouth, to the innermost part of the mouth. Outer to inner, right? The bilabial is outermost. You use 2 lips. Labiodental, lips and teeth. Interdental, between the teeth. Alveolar, after the front teeth, right? Alveopalatal, like after the alveolar in the palatal area. Palatal, velar, and glottal, which is the innermost, which is like in the voice box, right? So the places of articulation are here, and you can see that when we combine with the voicing, we have P and B in the bilabial, we have F and V in the labiodental, in the interdental we have theta and the D with the stroke, and then other sounds. So they lay out nicely here, right? So we talked about voicing, and then we talked about place of articulation. The last thing we can talk about when we talked about consonant is the manner of articulation. This is the last thing, okay? The manner of articulation has to do with how the air is blocked, how the air is obstructed through the vocal tract. So this describes in what manner or in what way the air is being obstructed or is being blocked in the mouth. Okay? You know about the place already. You know about whether the vocal cords vibrate already. The last thing is how the air is blocked. Okay? In what way is the air blocked? First, the air can be stopped fully, meaning that the air is obstructed completely before it is released. So you have this manner for these sounds. P, B, T, D, K, G. So this is the diagram that I used to show. So the air coming, right, from the lungs passes the vocal folds, everything, passing different places in the mouth, and then before it's being blocked completely, you see the being blocked completely here, before you release the air. So when you pronounce the P sound, imagine when you pronounce the P, 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 the air is blocked by the lips, right, completely, because you cannot release it. Then after you release it, the P comes out, right? P, like that. B is the same. B, t, 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 t. When you make the T sound, your tongue tip blocks the air, right? Like that. D is the same. K, your tongue, the kind of the back part of the tongue blocks the air completely, right? Before you release the air. K, G, same thing, right? So the first manner, the first way that the air is blocked is stopped completely, okay? Some people refer to this manner as plosive, P-L-O-S-I-V-E, plosive. Plosive. Just know that it's the same level as stop, okay? So plosive. Plosive, like explode, right? Meaning bomb, right? It's the same manner because when you stop the air and then when you release the air, you explode, right? The air explodes like that. So some people call it plosive, looking at how it explodes, where some other people call that stop because they look at the blockage of the air. Okay? Same thing though. So that's the first manner. The second manner is fricative. When you hear the word fricative, you might think of the word friction. You guys know the word friction? F-R-I-C-T-I-O-N. Friction. Friction means that something is fluctuating, something is waving all the time. Friction, like that, right? Up and down, up and down, up and down. So that's friction. So the word fricative comes from that, right? So it means that there's friction, there's up and down of the air when you pronounce these sounds, right? So fricative refers to partial, meaning not all, not complete, unlike stop. Partial obstruction with turbulence, okay? So this is the diagram. So it can come out not like block like that. It can come out but with friction in the air, right? So when you pronounce the S sound, for example, the sound can come out continuously, but it's not smooth, right? Like that, right? Or like that. It's not smooth, meaning the sound can come out continuously, but there's friction in the air. Or like that, right? Like that. So the sound can come out continuously, but it has to be kind of squeezed through some kind of narrow passage in the mouth, so causing friction. So we call them fricative. And then we also have affricate. Affricate, you can see fricate from fricative, right? So it is a combination of a stop and the fricative, right? So we have only two, T with a hook and D with a three, ch and j, right? Ch and j, like that. We call them affricate because it's a combination of a stop, like T, plus the fricative, right? So we call them affricate, okay? Stop plus fricative. Because when you do the t, 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 you have to block the air with your tongue tip, just like when you pronounce the T, t, right? And then you release it through narrow passage, ch, ch, like that, okay? So it's a combination of stop plus fricative, like this too. J, 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 jam, jam, just, like that, right? George, like that. So you have to block it and you release it partially. Three more manners. Nasal. When you let the air go through the nose, you have nasal sound. Nasal is nose, right? So because you lower the uvula, remember? When you lower the uvula, the air can come through the nose. Let me go back to, which one is that? This one. So when the uvula is lower like this, the air can pass through this passage, you see? There's passage. And then can come out through the nose. So that's the nasal manner. But if this part is raised up so that it blocks here, it can be raised up here. The air can only come through the mouth. Okay? So depending on the state of the uvula, okay, you will have nasal sounds or not. Okay? So there are three nasal sounds: m, n, and right? When you have a cold, komki, right? When you have a cold, you cannot produce nasal sound because your nose is filled up with mucus, right? So that it's just like your uvula is raised up. So you cannot produce nasal sound. And without the nasal here, they're gonna be like M is gonna be like a B sound, B, because you used your both lips as well, and so on. Okay. Liquid. When the air passes quite freely with the cases of L and R, L and R. Okay, not much of turbulence, not much of friction. So we call them liquid because they have the quality like liquid. So L and R. When you pronounce the L, the air will pass through the tongue. L, both sides of the tongue. And then finally, glide. Glide, when you start in one position and when you end with another position, that's gliding, right? You start in the back and you end up in the front. And then this is the Y sound, right? Yeah. You slide from top to bottom. Yeah, like that. So there are 6 manners: stop, fricative, affricate, nasal, liquid, and glide. When we put them in this table, the manner will be up front: stop, fricative, affricate, nasal, liquid, and then glide. Right? You have this. So once we put everything, we can describe the sounds precisely. Okay? The P sound, for example, if you look at the table, the P sound is clearly is not in the shaded area, remember? So it's voiceless. The place is bilabial, it's made with the lips, and it's a stop sound. Okay? It's different from a B sound because the B is voiced and then bilabial stop. So the only difference between the P, P, and B and the B is voicing. Everything else is the same, right? Same with the F and the V, same with the theta and the cross D here. Same with the S and the Z here, right? Everything is the same except for voicing, okay? But if you ask about the difference between the B and the M, the difference is in terms of here, right? The manner of articulation. Because B you made with bilabial, M you made with bilabial, and they are both voiced. So the only difference is whether it's nasal or whether it's stop. Okay? Whether you raise your uvula, when you raise it, the air can pass through the nose, so it's M. But if you close the passage between the nose and the mouth, then it's a B, like that. Okay? So when you have the cold, the M will sound like a B because it cannot go through the nose. It cannot come out of the nose like that. Okay? And the things that you don't have to pay attention to in this table are this upside down W. You don't have to pay attention to that. The upside down R, you don't have to pay attention to that. And I'll explain the question mark here next time. So just with the exception of upside down W and upside down R, everything else should be taken note of. Okay. The J here, as I said, some people use the letter Y because it's the Y sound. Yeah. So it doesn't matter which one you use. Okay. And another thing is that some books would use different symbols, but essentially they are the same. So this hook sound, as in shook, like that, or in shirt, this sound. Some books would use this symbol instead, S with this wedge. We call this wedge. Okay, so it's your choice whether to use the hook or to use S with a wedge. Okay, so the wedge is like the little V like that. Is equal to this one. Okay. And then I use T hook. Some books would use T and then S wedge, which is the same, right? Or even some people use C wedge. But same thing. For you to know that they are the same. I just prefer the hook and the T hook. But some other people prefer S with a wedge to represent the hook, and T S wedge to represent the T hook, or C wedge to represent the T hook. Doesn't matter. And some books also use J wedge to refer to D and number 3 that I use. Doesn't matter, same thing. So for you, you can choose what I use, which is the hook and the T hook and the D and number 3. Or you could use these ones that other people use. Or D wedge like that. And then they use the J wedge for number 3, which is the same thing. So it's up to you which one you prefer. But the reason why I prefer these is that because in my word processor, in my Microsoft, I have this symbol, which is the integral sign, right? And then I have the T, so it's easy for me to type. I don't have the wedge here on my word processor, so that's it. So why I'm more familiar with these and these rather than with the wedge form. Okay. So today we talked about how speech sounds are produced, right? There are 3 steps in the sound production process. The first step is the airstream process, right? You use the air from the lungs, right? The egressive airstream, right? And then the second step is the phonation, whether your vocal cords vibrate or not. The third step is different places in the mouth, how you block the air or where you block the air, right? And then we talk about consonant sounds, how to describe consonant sounds and how consonants in English are made using 3 descriptors: the voicing, the place, and the manner of articulation. The voicing refers to how the vocal cords vibrate or not. The place refers to different places where the sounds are made, from the lips, the teeth, the alveolar ridge, and so on, right? The last thing is the manner, how the air is blocked. Is it blocked completely in the case of stop? Is it blocked partially in the case of fricative, and so on, okay? And then we look at the IPA symbols, and then we look at, there might be some differences in the symbols that people use, so whichever you prefer. And finally, we put everything in this table, right, that nicely describe all the consonants. So the goals for today have been achieved, which are: you are able to describe the sound process, the sound production process. You are able to identify the consonant sounds in English. And you could also use the IPA symbols, right? So what I will do is I will have you at home. I'll have you on the handout that you have for today. There are some questions on the third page. Like this. So there are some questions on the 3rd page. So could you do that at home? I will not collect I will not collect the answers, but we'll look at the answers next time, and you just do these at home. So, for example, give the phonemic symbol for the following descriptions, right? Voice bilabial stop. Now, when you think about voice, the vocal cord vibrates, right? And then bilabial, two lips, stop when the air is blocked completely, right? So, where is that? With the two lips, right? So it has to be a B, right? So you put in a B like that, easily, right? A voice alveolar fricative like that. Where do you make that sound, right? And it has to be a fricative, and it has to be voice, and so on. Okay? So you can test yourself whether you can associate the descriptions with the sound or not. And then if you don't feel confident, you can look at the table and then fill in here. Okay? And in number B, this is the opposite of number A. In number B, I give you the symbol, and then you give me the description. So how do you make the sound K? Is it voice or voiceless? So think about how you make the sound K. Oh, it's in the inside, right? So it's in the back, so it has to be velar, right? For example. And then K is voiceless. So voiceless, velar. And then how do we stop the air? Or how do we release the air? The air stops completely before it is released, so it stops, right? So you have voiceless, velar, stop, like that, okay? And then finally, I give you the description of each sound, and then you have to tell me what sound I refer to. Like the lips are together, the velum is lowered. So the lips are together, so you use both lips, right? In other words, it's bilabial. The velum is lowered. So when the velum is lowered, the air can go through the nose, so it has to be nasal, like that. The sound is voice, right? And the air passes out through the nose. What is that sound? So on. So you just write down the sound. The description like this is useful because when you teach people how to pronounce, or when I teach people how to pronounce, we can refer to different places. We can refer to how the air is stopped, right? If you just go on showing them, oh, it has to be people don't know, right? You have to be clear about where it is and how it's made, right? How the air is obstructed and so on. So this kind of description is useful.